This is TWiT.
Guess what? You might be getting ads on your lock screen if rumors are true. According to TechCrunch, Glance, a mobile ad company and subsidiary of InMobi, is in talks with U.S. wireless carriers and plans to launch next month. And so what Glance is well, several things. It's been referred to as India's first unicorn startup because of its fundraising, and even Google, unsurprising because Google loves them ads and loves that ads revenue, is also an investor in this company, Glance. And really what it is dynamic lock screen content that is very adful. It is not just like necessarily, static ads. It's also content, it's videos, and like it's really interesting because it's a dynamic lock screen, and the only way you really can get past it is for you to unlock your phone. But Glance is really trying to keep you kind of enticed to kind of just keep that phone locked. And what's really interesting is that the content that you see and the kinds of ads that you can see on Glance are tend to vary based on region. For example, in India, there's just all kinds of like video content you can see. There was even some events that kind of promise to have users interact directly in real time with their favorite stars on television home screens, and content is scrollable. So they're really, it's almost like Manuel, sorry if I'm going to pronounce her name wrong, Manuel Vanal over at Android Police referred to it as Google Discover on steroids or something like this. And it's very much this kind of feel where they're trying to serve you content, and also they're reacting to what you interact with and what you kind of dismiss, and trying to customize your content experience. And so, for example, in India, you might get a full-blown kind of, again, this kind of like connecting you with stars kind of content, whereas in contrast, where Manuel is in the EU, in Germany, it's a lot more stripped down, more just kind of like really nice wallpapers, and some of them might be more kind of sponsored wallpapers. And so since the US is kind of in between these two extremes in terms of consumer protection laws, we will have to see what the US Glance content is like. Will it be this kind of like full media experience, Google Discover, with fireworks, and I guess since we just passed July 4th, fireworks and tons of pizzazz, or is it going to be more kind of understated and a little bit more solemn? I don't know. But we will see. And again, it's an interesting note is that, in other countries like Asia where Glance is, a lot of the partnerships that Glance have are with smartphone producers, whereas here in the US, they have to go after the carriers, because who really controls things in this country, the mobile carrier. So we'll see how it goes. You definitely should check out Flo's article. At the end, she kind of muses, kind of like Burke is, on what this future could be, because, we're getting into a year of, maybe seeing more ads in your notifications, and now maybe you'll see them on your lock screen. So thoughts,
well, yeah, and
impressions?
I knew... everyone should go read Flo's article on gizmodo.com, by the way, because she did a great job covering it. And I knew she and Will's everybody else was going to go in this direction. And I want to make a couple points, and then Juan, I want to hear what you think about this. But one, Amazon did this years ago with the lock screen on the Fire tablets and the Fire phones, and like we made some noise at it, and then I haven't heard a single person complain about it since then, right? And then secondarily, this is pretty standard fare in Asia and India. So that lock screen real estate is being monetized and is being used for push. It's kind of reminds me of, I'm dating myself here, but in the 90s, there was a startup called Pointcast that was basically like a screensaver that fed you news headlines and things like that. And it was like pre-RSS, pre all the stuff that we use now, but like ahead of its time. And this reminds me a lot of that. I'm going to reserve my judgment though on what I think of it though, because Juan, what is your first reaction to this?
I mean, the first reaction to this is bad. I don't want it. I purposely go out of my way to buy products that don't sort of monetize in this kind of way. And when I feel like when we've examined some of these other solutions for serving up advertising, I feel the only way it's sort of fair to the consumer is if they get a cut. So if you're getting an insanely cheap Fire tablet and part of that is you're going to be subsidizing the cost of that with advertising, then I think that's a fair trade. Someone can make that purchasing decision. Or if you're in one, because like there are a number of those apps, like you can watch ads or you can shop and spend in different ways, and then you get like cashback incentives or gift cards or something like that. I mean, so many people are taking surveys on Google through Google Rewards to subsidize their app purchases. So if this is just a way to monetize, I'm increasingly anxious for the United States. Because we actually don't have good regulatory agency over the telecoms. The FTC put out a report several months ago talking about how like everything we do is basically being monitored, tracked, sold, and profited off of. And this sounds like exactly something that carriers would do, premium tier phones, and something tells me this will lopsidedly affect Android users. Apple will have enough clout to say, no, leave our notification space alone. You're not going to be able to do this on iPhones. And it's going to increasingly make Android devices less desirable if this shows up on like a Galaxy S series.
But I'll counterpoint that Apple will say, no, leave our notification screen or our lock screen alone until we decide it's worthwhile to roll this out. And we're going to see how it works out on Android, and then we'll do the Apple version of it. Yeah.
Totally agree. But the Apple version is going to be one where, for whatever reason, Apple customers are fine patting themselves on the back for being a part of the ecosystem. We're not going to get a contained Google ecosystem advertising machine that serves us those Google products and services. Like with Apple, it's going to be, hey, check out this amazing thing that you can watch on Apple TV, and check out Apple Music, and check out, the next AirPods. And Apple fans are just going to be reinforced why they should stay in the Apple ecosystem. We're going to get ads for everything, whatever reason, Android seems to be a catch-all for that kind of behavior. So if you're getting a benefit out of it, like if you're telling me I can choose to buy a new Galaxy, and instead of paying $1,000, I can get it at a ridiculous, an even better savings than doing like a trade-in, then I can make that choice as a consumer to have something on my lock screen. But increasingly, I'm also just trying to talk people out of like staring at their lock screens for things. If you're going to pick up or notice your phone, it should be with some kind of purpose, because we're all just sort of hyper distracted anyway. So the advertising thing might be just a non-issue, especially for folks like me who are already wearing some kind of other notification delivery system.
Well, so the other additional thoughts I'll base off that is, what's interesting and what I read about Glance and what they do. I mean, yes, everyone's going to, like even the headline for Flo's article was like your Android lock screen could be filled with ads, right? So you're immediately thinking of like Times Square or like a NASCAR race or like the worst case scenario of it, right? But if Glance is doing this in a way that is and I'll give credit where credit's due, Instagram ads are very effective.
Yes. I was going to say like Snapchat. Exactly. Yeah. If it just becomes another social media style delivery system, then again, I don't know that there's going to be a lot of harm there. But I think the people that do care about this care about it enough that it will absolutely impact their purchasing decisions. And then someone who's game to have that kind of customized content delivery system might not notice. I just feel when money is getting exchanged and when these manufacturers are obviously earning revenue off of this kind of user behavior, I think the user should get a cut. In some way,
100% agreed. 100% agreed. Yeah.
should be included in that conversation.
Yeah, there should be some sort of return or some sort of knock. Yeah, like I don't know how that works, whether it's on the carrier level or you get it from Google or whatnot. But I'm with you. The idea,
Samsung credits. You watch enough ads and eventually you get yourself some Galaxy Buds. I know a lot of people that would be totally down to have that behavior monetized.
Now, I'm right there. Right, Huyen, after you.
Oh no, quite. But question. I actually brought this up during dinner. I liked it when I do my show prep, especially when it's my family. I like to kind of like, well, what do you all think of this? Because we're all Android users in this house. And I think my brother-in-law made a good point and was wondering, oh, well, maybe the carriers that they're talking to might be kind of one of those like budget, usually we talk about and think about and complain about, Verizon, T-Mobile, the big ones. Google Fi, but what would if Glance is talking to kind of more super budget, like the kind of $5 for unlimited data type, data plans with kind of like lower end phones, does that change your opinion on it? Do you think that's acceptable that maybe in exchange for these super hyper cheap services and for the folks using this, maybe Glance is not a bad trade-off, or could maybe just be part of
subsidize.
I don't know, subsidizing it.
Yeah.
But I mean, does that change your opinion at all?
I like it if it is actually a subsidy over what their rates would have been. My fear is that when people go in to shop on low-cost options, they're often the people that are most taken advantage of. So here now you're going to be monetized, your behavior is going to be monetized. We already know that these companies profit insanely off of our data anyway. And then this is just yet another sort of wealth extraction system based off of user behavior. If it's that they're going to monetize the cheap carrier people because subsidizing, but then they don't really get a benefit, then I think that's a very that's a bad look for a low cost carrier.
Very fair. Yeah.
Agreed. The other point I was going to make is that I've been monitoring my own use of my phone lately, and specifically when traveling or on the train or watching my kids or whatever. I do find myself more often than not that I'm scrolling Instagram less or Twitter less or social networks less, and I unlock my phone and then I immediately swipe right to see the news feed, from kind of Google thing. If that's just pushed over to the lock screen, I don't even need to unlock my phone, right? What we're underscoring here is that we're all assuming the glance technology is going to be used for that Times Square ads kind of experience I mentioned, but the technology also can push content and can push news. And so if you have an integration with Google News or whatever it might be, it's to your point, Juan, how are you using your phone or looking at your phone and all that stuff, it could make the lock screen useful at that point and save a swipe. I can quickly look to see what the latest headlines are and decide if I want to open my phone or just put it back in my pocket.
I think the flip side of this is people who don't wear, smartwatches and other notification systems. Like I'm still dying for a good heads up display after losing Focals by North. I think a lot of people will also push back from the opposite side where I use my lock screen to get it's this is like a pocket smartwatch. The lock screen is like a pocket watch, but a smart pocket watch. And so now if they go to their lock screen and other things are competing for their attention against the information that they're trying to access, I think you're going to find the opposite. The people who are very different from me are also going to push back against some of this idea because that reduces the functionality of their communication system. It's going to improve their interactions with news and links and social media. I've got a really well-cultivated Reddit account so that I get exactly the subreddits and the kinds of stories that I like to read. But I don't want my news, my subreddit feed competing with my text messages and instant messages and my calls and my voicemails. I think you're going to run into some conflict there too.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. I mean, it hasn't even happened yet. This is just like the article is like they're thinking about entering the U.S. They're currently in India and they're in some parts of the EU, but so we'll see if it comes. I don't know.